Yes, using an AI no-code app builder can save you a fortune compared to hiring human developers, but that's only if you pick the right platform. In this video, I'm comparing the best AI app builder options by giving each of them the same task to perform and then examining their journeys plus results. That way, you won't have to learn those lessons the hard way. To compare how Hostinger Horizons, Base44, and Lovable handle app creation, I started with a simple and slightly incomplete prompt. The goal was to see how each platform adapts when the user leaves out important details, similar to how a beginner might approach AI app builders for the first time. Both Base44 and Hostinger Horizons immediately began generating the app experience, making their own assumptions about layout, branding, and visual design. Lovable was different here. It paused and asked follow-up questions about color palettes, styling preferences, and overall direction. Neither approach is necessarily better, it just comes down to whether you value speed and automation or deeper personalization and control. In terms of raw speed, Base44 generated the app the fastest, with Hostinger Horizons close behind. And of course, Lovable was the slowest, but that's understandable because it asked additional questions. If that's all you needed to see before trying one of these app builders yourself, grab my discount from the description for any of these three providers. Once the apps are generated, they let you preview on both desktop and mobile devices right away. Base44 and Lovable also included a tablet preview mode. Alright, so speed is one thing, but what about the results? Of course, there were noticeable differences in how complete each first draft looked. Even though all three tools received the same exact prompt, Base44 delivered the most finished version on the first attempt. In fact, when deciding what to improve in the Hostinger Horizons and Lovable versions, I ended up borrowing ideas directly from Base44's initial prototype. It had already added extra booking service categories and even implemented visual pricing ranges, automatically without being asked. When it comes to real-time editing, Base44 was also the most flexible, with Lovable coming in second. This isn't a Base44 tutorial, but let me quickly show you how you can click directly on almost any text element and edit it as if you were working inside Google Docs. It also provides a direct shortcut to the code connected to each visual element. So if you're transitioning between visual editing and development, it's going to be smooth sailing. Lovable offered a much more simplified version. The editing tools were easier to use, though also more limited, and there was no direct shortcut to the underlying code. To access it, you would need to manually locate it. Hostinger Horizons, meanwhile, still has room to improve in this area. While visual editing exists, it's much more limited than with Base44 and Lovable. Usually, you just have to write new prompts for even the smallest changes, meaning the editing workflow is slower. At least it only changes what I ask, though, and it's also improving quickly with many changes coming too. More on prompt-based editing, because I tested all three platforms on that front too. For Lovable and Hostinger Horizons, I asked both services to implement additional features that Base44 had already included automatically in its original draft. To their credit, both platforms handled these requests fairly well, and the missing booking selections appeared in their updated versions. For Base44, I instead requested a completely new feature, a dark mode toggle. The feature got implemented almost instantly, plus it added thoughtful visual touches like a sun icon for light mode and a moon icon for dark mode without even being instructed to do so. Personally, I like this proactivity because it's not over the top. Overall, though, all three services proved capable of refining and improving generated apps, but Base44 consistently felt the most responsive, feature complete, and polished. If you want to try Base44 yourself, don't pay the full price and use my discount by scanning this QR code or clicking the link in the description. Like me, anyone looking to build app with AI tools will be experimenting a lot and occasionally breaking things. And that's why version history is super important. With Base44, version history works almost like a timeline for your project. You can open older versions, restore them, compare changes, and even jump back to newer versions afterwards. In other words, if you revert to an earlier build just to test something, your newer versions are still safely waiting for you there too. It all feels very flexible. Lovable handles this in a very similar way. Moving between different versions is easy, and you don't really have to worry about losing your progress while testing ideas. Hostinger Horizons, though, well, it approaches version history very differently. It does include undo and restore functionality, but it feels more like an emergency recovery tool. If you go back to a previous state, your later changes and messages are essentially wiped out, and then you cannot return to the future version. Eventually, you might want to continue with development outside of the platform, or hand the project over to a developer. The good news is that all three services do support exporting your app code. However, there are availability restrictions depending on the platform and pricing tier. Base44 does allow full code export, but only if you subscribe to its Builder plan. Hosting Horizons is even more restrictive in this area. Code export is only available through an expensive hobbyist or hustler plan, which means casual users or beginners on lower tiers won't have access to the generated source code. Now, Lovable is the most generous here. It allows code exporting even on the free plan, making it much easier to experiment with the platform. So, if having ownership and the portability of your code is a major priority from the start, Lovable definitely has the advantage in this particular category. So by now you should know how to build an app with AI, but publishing the app you created on the Apple App Store or Google Play Store can become a bit more technical. It's called wrapping, and this is where Base44 completely dunks on the other two providers. It includes wrapping capabilities directly inside its own ecosystem, so you don't have to rely on outside services just to prepare your app for mobile release. On top of that, Base44 provides detailed documentation and step-by-step guides explaining how to actually publish the app. So this is a massive advantage for beginners too. Lovable, unfortunately, does not currently offer anything similar natively. If through Lovable you want to launch app with AI on mobile app stores, you first need to export the code and then use separate third-party tools to wrap the application. While possible, this requires more technical knowledge and setup. If you want a Lovable tutorial on that, let me know in the comments. Hostinger Horizons has no built-in wrapping system either. That said, the Hostinger Horizon ecosystem is much more focused on web-based projects. Hosting, domain registration, and even email server functionality are all integrated directly into the platform. So launching a traditional web app or website is super easy and doesn't require relying on extra services. If that's your goal, grab Horizons at the lowest price possible with my discount by scanning this QR code or clicking the link in the description. Next, I have to compare pricing. First, let me explain how each app builder calculates credits. It's generally 1 credit equals 1 prompt on all three providers. That said, simpler visual prompts can use less, and more complex ones, where you ask for multiple changes, can of course take more. So if we simply count price per credit, Base44 is the cheapest, but there's more than just that to consider. For example, if your goal is to host your app on a website, Hostinger will offer this option for just a few extra bucks per month. With Lovable plans, you can select how many credits you need separately. However, that doesn't change the fact that it's still the most expensive of the three per credit. So that covers my AI app builder comparison. Overall, Base44 turned out to be the most polished, beginner-friendly, and the most affordable. That said, if you intend for your app to be web-based and hosted on a website, with Hostinger Horizon, tutorial videos aren't even necessary. That leaves us with Lovable, which isn't bad, but honestly, Base44 can do pretty much all the same things and at a lower cost. Whichever one you choose though, don't forget to use my discounts from the description for the lowest price possible. Thanks for watching till the end. If you want more guidance on how to build an app without coding, watch the video on screen next. May you succeed with your app building projects. See you around.